Please be seated for tonight's talk. Sit comfortably so you can face the teacher. And we'll recite the Gata Sutra, which is on page 8 of your liturgy books. If you need a liturgy book, they're in the back of the Zendo on the table there. Gata on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this almost winter evening, the solstice next week. So we turn towards the darkness. And of course, in darkness there is light, but do not look for that light. Light and darkness are a pair, not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. And it's really this walking that I want to talk about briefly tonight. So we had our Rohatsu Shishin last week, which was a week long, which my body has still not recovered from. I don't know about the rest of you in the gray robes. And you might have noticed some pictures of the retreat are up on our Facebook page. And a set of them are of Soan, down here, who is our workmaster. And just these beautiful pictures of him sitting at the tables out there in the early morning, I think it was the early morning, with all of his papers laid out and a cup of coffee, and he's making the work assignments for the day. Who's going to do what job? Just totally in that space, just totally doing that task. And I really wanted to speak to Samu and work practice and the activity of our life, this walking, this step after step that we take. So in Zen, we say there's only two things. There's sitting and they're sweeping the temple floor. And the sweeping of the temple floor is not inferior to the sitting. Actually, the sweeping of the temple floor is a very mature practice. And it can take many years to sweep the temple floor and just sweep the temple floor. John Dido, Laurie Roshi, one of our teachers says, work emerges as the active function of Zazen. So work emerges as the active function of Zazen. And of course, sweeping the floor is bodhisattvic activity, right? We take care of the space, we honor the space, and we take care of the people who occupy the space. We honor them too with our sweeping and our cleaning and whatever our activity is. And of course, Shishin is Zen training. It's where we basically train in this sitting and in this sweeping the temple floor. And of course, Shishin is a trap. Shishin is retreat. I'm sorry for the new people. It's a retreat. So it's a trap that brings up all of our habitual mind patterns, all of our habitual energies, and we fall into encountering them over and over and over again. And work practice is a place where that is very apparent. At least for me, it's been very apparent. So we get a task, and we can do it with the mind of, I just need to get this done. Maybe with the mind of, well, it beats sitting in the Zendo. My knees are really sore right now. Maybe with the mind of, I am going to get an A+ on cleaning the bathrooms. I'm going to clean it better than anyone ever has. But what if we encounter that task differently? Because we can actually engage it as a sacred activity. We can engage our lives as a sacred activity. There's a story, which I know is not a Zen story because there's a cathedral involved in it. But it's of these 3 stonemasons who are hammering the stone to make the cathedral. And the first stonemason is asked, what are you doing? And he said, well, I'm hammering this stupid stone, and I can't wait till it's quitting time, and I'm out of here. And the second stonemason is asked, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm molding this stone so it'll be part of the wall of the temple. And I do this same task over and over, day in, day out, and it's incredibly boring. And then the third stonemason was asked, what are you doing? And he said, I'm building a sacred temple. So the question for us is, with what mind do we hammer the block? With what mind do we live our lives? And of course, the foundation of work practice, of any activity, is mindfulness, right? So we enter the task with the body relaxed, we're alert, we're aware of what we're doing, and we're focused on the task at hand. And we directly experience the washing of the dishes, the sweeping of the floor, the cleaning of the bathrooms. And even that is not intimate enough. When we wash the dishes, we just wash the dishes. When we sweep the temple floor, we just wash we just sweep the temple floor. And we do this skillfully. Like we're not focused on practice, we're simply focused on the activity. So sometimes our mind is really concentrated. Like if we're hammering something into the wall, we're really concentrated so we don't hit our finger, right? And in other activities, the sweeping perhaps, our mind is a lot more relaxed, a lot more globally aware. So in work practice, we learn that mindfulness isn't one thing. You taste the moment you're in, and you respond skillfully. And this is great training in doing that. And there's often a misconception, maybe not so much today, certainly back in the 60s when Zen hit America, that Zen practice was all improvisation and spontaneity. And there is that aspect of Zen, but there's also a lot of planning and preparation, as our work master can tell you. There's a lot of spreadsheets and names and tasks to be figured out. And actually, retreat itself is planned on the annual level, it's planned on the monthly level. The Tanto, the head of retreat, starts that actual planning for that particular retreat probably 2 or 3 weeks out. So it looks like it just all flows and manifests and happens, but there is a lot of planning and work that goes into that. And that is no less Zen practice than, the spontaneous experiences that we might encounter. And even during work practice in Shishin is very ritualized. So Soen does his work allocations, and we go back to the ancestor hall, and we chant, and we bow, and Soen reads out what your assignment is. He'll tell me, Shokai, you have to do whatever today, and he'll bow to me, and I'll bow to him. We understand each other. Very conscious behavior, very intentional behavior, very sacred behavior around what could be a very menial task, no less sacred than anything else. So it's not random, and it is practice. It is practice. And none of that is outside of yourself unless you make that so. Unless you encounter as something separate. And if you do that, well, you're in trouble. Do you encounter your life as something separate? Putting food on the table as something separate? Walking in the park as something separate than yourself? And if you do, well, we have Zen training to rely on to bridge that separation, to make it completely intimate. So to go back to what Daido Roshi said about work emerges as the active function of Zazen. And these folks have just had beginning instruction, so this is actually going to make sense to you. So each time we get distracted in Samu, we simply notice the distraction and we come back to the task at hand. Just as in Zazen, we notice the mind is strayed, we come back to the breath. Exactly the same. And we do this in a non-judgmental way, and our work periods are about half an hour. We might have to do this, 20, 30 times during a work practice. Bring your mind back to what you're actually doing. And even that's not intimate enough. It's just be what you're actually doing. In Zazen, yes, we place our mind on the breath, but actually we are the breath. The breath is breathing us. In sweeping the temple floor, there is nothing but the sweeping of the temple floor. This I that we think is at the center of this activity, of course, doesn't actually exist. And we sit on the cushion and we realize that, and we work and we realize that. There's nothing but the sitting, there's nothing but the breathing, there's nothing but the sweeping. And sometimes feelings arise, as they do in Zazen. Feelings of maybe fear, maybe I can't do this job just right. I won't be seen as being perfect. Maybe feelings of shame, I'm not worthy of this practice. Maybe doubt, why the hell am I doing this? I could be cleaning my own house right now. Whatever arises. And we do exactly what we do in Zazen. We become the fear. We become the shame, we become the doubt. And of course, anything that we're intimate with will dissipate. That karmic knot will just unravel and disappear. But if we fight it, if we fight that I shouldn't be feeling this way, we're actually reifying it. We're making it into a thing. Just like if we fight thoughts in Zazen, we're actually solidifying them. We're making the practice so much more difficult for ourselves. So work practice is awake, it's alive, it's alert, just like Zazen. And we're not doing this in a trance. There's a famous quote you've probably heard by Lay Man Pang, who was like the exemplary lay practitioner, a totally enlightened lay practitioner, who says, isn't it wonderful, isn't it marvelous? I chop wood and carry water. I think Jack Cornfield from Spirit Rock, he has something equivalent, like before enlightenment, chop wood, do the laundry, I think. After enlightenment, do the laundry. Because this life and this work, this laundry, chopping the wood, is the manifestation of the Dharma. It is the manifestation of the Buddha Dharma. It is not separate from it. So the question for us is, do we fully embody the activity, or do we separate from it? And our training is a training in fully embodying it. And that starts the first night you come into the temple and sit on the cushion and be the breath. So there is a history of Samu in the tradition, which is interesting. Apparently, Zen masters realize that if you sit long enough on the cushion, it will get dusty. And the courtyard will get filled with trash and weeds. And back in the 8th or 9th century, Pai Chang of the Fox koan, the famous Zen master, got fed up of monks just sitting around. And in those days, being a monk was, for some of monks, an escape from the world. You were escaping family circumstances, military conscription, debt collectors, taxes. Sitting on the cushion was a pretty good deal, actually, compared to what was going on out there in the world. So he would, of course, talk. The big insult in Zen is to be called a rice bag. All you're good for is eating rice. You're just occupying space, not actually doing practice. So he declared no work, no food, just like the little red hen. You don't work, you don't eat, right? And he immersed the monks and the teachers in activity, in actually tending to the temple, tending to the garden. And he pretty much hit the hierarchy with a boulder. It really revolutionized Zen practice, and it reinvigorated it. And, I always have this story is really interesting and somewhat inspirational, but I always wonder, what do the women of the local village think of this, that this famous Zen master had finally realized dust gathers and trash accumulates as they did their daily chores of maintaining the house and the garden and feeding the kids and sitting at the kitchen table. I suspect there was just a little bit of eye rolling at the monks up the road who, oh, look what we discovered, this wonderful practice of housework. Maybe I'm being unfair. But I do think of Joy Harjo, that poem, which I can't remember the name of, but she says, the world begins at the kitchen table. And the poem ends, perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table as you savor that last delicious bite. Hello, Zen, and bows to the women of the lineage who have been unseen and unheard and unrecognized. So the energy created by this reinvigoration of Zen, of course, not only reinvigorated the tradition, but reinvigorated the sitting. There's a certain quality to sitting after you come back from Samu, is there not? You sit 3 periods in the dawn, you eat, you work, and you come back and you sit on your cushion again, and your body feels different. There's energy there. So work as practice. So when we do Samu, we're sweeping the cobwebs with the lineage, with Pai Chang and his monks and all of the monks and the nuns who came after them. And how do we experience these moments of work? Do we experience them as simply mundane, or do we experience them as sacred? And to experience them as sacred, we really have to encounter them mindfully. So Pai Ching discovered that you could actually utilize meditation and activity in the world together. And of course, this is the secret of integration, is it not? You can sit on the cushion and go out in the world and be an asshole. But actually, how do you integrate this practice into your life? And how do you encounter your life not as drudgery and boredom, but as actually each moment being sacred and alive? So when we work, at least hopefully during Samu, we work with no concept of me working. You just wash the dishes, you just sweep the floor, and also without any picking and choosing, right? You just encounter the task at hand. The famous line, the great way is not difficult, it simply involves not picking and choosing. And in Samu, we sweep that dust, where our activity simply becomes a mirror. So cleaning the bathroom is no less than sitting on the cushion, and integrating that is waking up. Integrating that is waking up. Shoveling snow with the Buddha, Billy Collins. In the usual iconography of the temple or the local walk, you would never see him doing such a thing, tossing the dry snow over a mountain of his bare, round shoulder, his hair tied in a knot, a model of concentration. Smiling is more his speed, if that is the word for what he does or does not do. Even the season is wrong for him. In all his manifestations, is it not warm or slightly humid? Is this not implied by his serene expression, that smile so wide it wraps itself around the waist of the universe? But here we are, working our way down the driveway, one shovelful at a time. We toss the light powder into the clear air. We feel the cold mist on our faces, and with every heave, we disappear and become lost to each other in these sudden clouds of our own making, these fountain bursts of snow. This is so much better than a sermon in church. I say it out loud, the Buddha keeps on shoveling. This is the true religion, the religion of snow and sunlight and winter geese barking in the sky, I say, but he is too busy to hear me. He has thrown himself into shoveling snow as if it were the purpose of existence, as if the sign of a perfect life were a clean driveway. You could back the car down easily and drive off into the vanities of the world with a broken heater fan and a song on the radio. All morning long, we work side by side, me with my commentary, and he inside his generous pocket of silence, until the hour is nearly noon, and the snow is piled high all around us. Then I hear him speak. After this, he asks, can we go inside and play cards? Certainly, I reply. I will heat some milk and bring cups of hot chocolate to the table while you shuffle the deck, and our boots stand dripping by the door. Ah, says the Buddha, lifting his eyes and leaning for a moment on his shovel before he drives the thin blade again deep into the glittering white snow. Which reminds me of Wendell Berry. Suppose we did our work like the snow, quietly, quietly, leaving nothing out. Leaving nothing out. Maybe so.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Thank you everybody for coming tonight. Welcome to our visitors. Are there any announcements? I have some. My name is Kensei. Tomorrow night we'll have White Tara Sadhana. It is open to all members of all genders. Please join us. And Sunday is our eye-opening ceremony. So you're welcome to bring, you're encouraged to bring your main altar image from home and have its eye opened by the teachers. And is there anything else about that, Shunkai? So hopefully we'll enjoy that ceremony. Did you have something, Swan? Oh, please restore the zendo.
Oh, congratulations. Stupid.